Hello and welcome to another cooking class with Pam Smith. I'm Nicole Talbot and we're so excited to have you here. We've been counting down the minutes.
We really have.
This is just one of those meals that we've been looking forward to ever since we planned it out months and months and months ago. So I can't wait to eat it. I can't wait to see how we put it all together. And we can't wait to see what you come up with at your own house.
It has all of the ingredients we love, which is hard to really say because we love everything we cook with. We love all of our spice blends, but there's something special about these blends. We're going to be using our chili lime, not only for the center cut pork chops that we'll be doing in just a moment, but we're also going to be using that same chili lime together with adobo, which is just like medicine in a bottle because it's loaded with turmeric and flavor, and that's going to go into our mango red pepper chutney. Yeah. But then we're also using, drum roll please, porcini pepper, which is going to go into crushed potatoes. And if you've never made crushed potatoes, I'm sure you've read the recipe by now. So much fun. But with that note, I want to say we got a lot to do here. So I would love for you, if you've not already gotten your pot of water on and ready to go, start it boiling right now. We'll add the potatoes in just a little bit. We're going to boil those potatoes first. Then we're going to crush them and get them into the oven. If you don't have your oven yet set at 400, please do that too. So oven set, 400 degrees, and potatoes ready to go, and at the same time, water ready to boil.
Now, the reason that Pam is getting you started straight away is because we're doing things a little different tonight. Usually we have, we give you your prep sheet. If you don't have it yet, this is on the Facebook page that you're on right now. You just click on files, and the very first file there is going to be everything you need for this class. It's your recipe, it's your prep sheet, your grocery list. If you're just watching now and you're going to cook it later, go there, get what you need. Or even if you're cooking along and you haven't printed it out, you may want to, because we never know what's going to happen with internet.
Technology,
at your house, at ours, whatever that may be. So it's good to have it printed. It looks a little something like this.
That's in black and white. You can also
you
print
can
it
do
in color. Yes.
But it gives you your prep sheet. This is everything you need to do to start one of these cooking classes and be able to go at Pam Smith's speed. However, we decided that for tonight, we'd try something a little different. We would prep from start to finish. We would prep the meal, cook the meal, and get it hopefully onto your table at home and onto our table here in about an hour. So we'll see how that happens. In addition, we're going to be doing a contest during the class tonight, which I'm very excited about. If you've done our cooking classes before, you know that usually we'll do something where, after the class, maybe you'll take a picture of your meal, post it, and get entered for the Cutco Cutlery Knife giveaway. Cutco partners with us to give away one of their amazing must-have in your kitchen knives every month.
We're going to be using the 4-inch paring knife
tonight,
which we're really excited about because we're going to be cutting a mango. And if you've not cut a mango before, sit back, take a deep breath. Going to be great. The paring knife's going to help.
Yeah, and so we're actually going to give it away during the class tonight. So if you're watching live, tonight is your night. And we will let you know when that's going to be. We're going to ask you a question. And when we tell you that this is the Cutco Cutlery giveaway question, you want to answer it. You get one chance to answer. And the person who answers correctly will win the knife.
Oh, tonight?
Tonight, before the class ends, they will win the knife.
Wow.
I know, so I'm really excited about that.
We're switching it up.
I know, so we have things to do.
We do.
But we need to start with whatever this amazing wine is going to be for us.
You might have noticed that in the recipe we have a PAM'S pairing, PAM'S pick for a wine pairing. If you are choosing to have a little sip of wine while you're cooking, always a pleasurable thing. Feel free to pour that now if you haven't already. We're drinking a Truchard Chardonnay. We think that the beautiful bright fruit, it does have a little oak. I talk about in PAM'S pairing to do an unoaked Chardonnay, but I happen to have been here just about 3 weeks ago. And
at the wine
at Truchard. I fell in love with this, and I sat out in the gazebo. I sipped this wine, and And we had just cooked this meal, and I thought, oh my goodness, because it's just beautiful, bright, almost tropical fruits, and just a really light framing of oak. So that's working for us. So cheers.
Cheers.
Really fun things.
You,
I know,
you.
and to you. And Spice Girl Kim. Do we want to talk about that?
So we have Spice Girl Kim waiting for any question you might have and the contest. So she will be moderating right at her computer and ready to take any questions. She will be your voice. So we do this live because we really want to take the guesswork out of cooking for you. I know for me, sometimes when I'm making a recipe that I'm just reading out of a cookbook or, you know, one of the aprons, little cards, I'm going, and I stop and think, well, what do they mean by that?
Right.
Or, well, I don't actually have that. I missed that on the list. Could I sub it for something else? And I hate having to guess, especially when it's the first time I make a recipe.
Right.
So we cook this live, so you can ask your question right then, right there. Anything that you may wonder, whatever it may be, Pam is here to be your expert, your chef, and we're here to be your family. So,
and we have the prep list. I know many of you, I know a few people in particular, we're going home this afternoon to get everything prepped. Already have your red pepper diced, already have your shallots diced, have your lime squeezed. But if you didn't do that, that's okay. We're gonna do it, so you can just do it right along with us. Or if you did do that advanced prep, gives you a little time to sip a little bit of wine, to add it in, and to kind of take all stock of it.
Yes.
But we can make it happen.
well, I think we should get started, but just in case anybody missed at the beginning, the things that you need to do to get started are get your water boiling for your potatoes, have your potatoes ready to go, and your oven preheating to 400 degrees. And I'm gonna grab the Nicole can.
Okay.
I get on the camera so we can get up close and personal with what Pam is making. And if you don't know, if you haven't been with us for a class, Pam is my mom, and I could not be more proud. So this is always an honor for me. So I can't wait to lead you as she's cooking with us.
Fantastic.
So here we go.
I love it. And you couldn't have said it better because the water started boiling at that moment,
Amazing.
which is fantastic. And it's important because, again, I mentioned if you've not done crashed potatoes, this is your crash course, pardon the pun intended, of how to really make this happen. And it's really a cool process because it's kind of a 1-2 punch with potatoes. First, you get your water boiling, which we've got in a roiling boil.
Oh my,
right
that's
now.
quite a boil.
I know. We'll take that down just a little bit, but it's gonna go high because we're gonna add our potatoes right to it. I've already washed the potatoes, hopefully you did too. These are baby potatoes, and I opted to use some of the really beautiful tricolor potatoes. You could use just the little baby Yukon potatoes. You can use, these have purple Peruvians. These have some little new potatoes. Just really whatever your choice is, but for these, I always suggest you do a little bit smaller, especially when we're trying to do it in the time that we're trying to do, because they cook just so much quicker. If you use a little larger potato, like a traditional new potato, fine to do, they just take a little longer to boil. I'm gonna turn my temp right back up on this. They take a little longer to boil, but that's fine too. Just once they come out, the crashed potato notion, I'm in love with. My other daughter, Danielle, who lives in Chicago, shout out. She and I did this together one time, fell in love with these potatoes. And if you've not made them before, I think you will too. When we first did them, we sprinkled them with our smoky southern, which we love. But tonight, we're stepping it up and we're using Porcini Pepper, which is this incredible blend that has, again, porcini pepper, our porcini mushrooms, which gives this incredible umami to the potatoes. So you get the smoked paprika and beautiful, beautiful spice blends, a little touch of cumin, but then in addition, it's that taken up a notch. And even if you're not a mushroom fan, you'll never know it. The porcini just gives that incredible umami. See the steam.
I know,
it's
I
coming
love
right
it. I
through
love it.
That's
well,
really
and one
fantastic.
of the things I love about the porcini pepper, besides just that it's so craveable, is it has so much in it. It's really one bottle instead of about 14 different spices.
Exactly.
And to be able to get all of that in one jar and on our potatoes, makes them extra delicious.
Extra delicious indeed. So letting those just boil away, it'll probably take about 10 minutes or so for them to actually cook. Once they're done, I'm gonna drain them. We're gonna put them on a sheet pan. We're gonna smash them, and we're smashing them quite simply with a fork. Just doing that little bit of a smash. We'll be brushing them with a little olive oil, sprinkling them with the porcini, get them back into the oven, and oh my gosh, so delicious. The crispiness that happens, it's really fantastic. While that's doing its job, let me tell you what's still ahead. We're also going to be doing chili lime pork chops. And the pork chops are center cut pork chops. You could certainly use them with a bone. These are boneless. You could use thinner ones. Those cook really quickly. You almost don't even need to do what we're gonna do, which is get them seared on top of the stove and then get them into the oven to finish them off. But since we already have the oven going, it seemed to make sense to get something that was a little bit thicker, a little bit meatier, and just works beautifully with the chili lime that we're gonna be seasoning them with. It's a rub, so when we get to that, we're gonna really be rubbing it on, so we've got that to do. But first off, while those potatoes are cooking, we're gonna get started with making our mango red pepper chutney. And no surprise, that starts with the star, and that is mango itself. Now, I don't know, I would love to ask the question, how many of you have cooked with mango before? But since I can't see your hands, I will tell you that it seems like 100 years ago, I worked to create a restaurant called Bahama Breeze, and I fell in love with mangoes, their brightness, that incredible blend of a little bit of acidity, but yet a lot of sweetness. I love the texture. But to get that texture that you're really looking for, you want to get a mango that's ripe, but not too ripe. So knowing what to do is really important. First off, you want to look at the stem end, and oftentimes it's even just a little bit shiny. It'll show you that it's almost started to kind of ooze just a little bit. It should be firm to touch, but it should slightly indent when you put your finger on it. Maybe a little more firm than if you're trying to check an avocado for its ripeness. But again, with this, you want the integrity of those dices holding together. So you're not wanting it mushy. If we were doing a mango smoothie, no problem. Or if you buy this and let it go a little too long and it gets too ripe, mango smoothie, it is. Mango vinaigrette. So much you can do with mango. Mango sauce, mango coulis. But today we're going to be doing a mango chutney or a mango salsa. So I want it to be just a little more firm than what it would normally be. So,
and even though you said that you couldn't see the hands, we did get one person that says that they make a mango salsa with Texi taco.
Do they?
It sounds delicious.
It's interesting because you all may not know, but Nicole and I go through so many lamentings, at lack of a better term, of what to do with these kinds of food pairings and how to put our menu together. We know we wanted to use chili lime on the pork chop, so we thought about what would go so well with it. And honestly, mango and pineapple with chili lime, amazing. So the person that uses Texi taco, I get it because it has a lot of those same kinds of blends.
Absolutely.
To really get the cut that you're doing, if you know a mango inside, sorry, there's quite a large pit. And what you're trying to do is to be able to slice on either side of that pit. So you want to hold it upright.
All right, I'm going to come closer to you so we can see.
Good.
And you're using the Santoku. Is that
this particular one?
Do you prefer a larger knife when you're cutting?
For this cut, now in just a moment I'm going to use the 4-inch paring knife because that's going to be really critical. But what I'm doing is I'm cutting right along the pit, which you'll see in just a moment. So again, I'm cutting a half. The pit is right there. I then turn it and I do exactly the same thing. One of the sides has a little more flesh on it than the other. Usually the longer side, and even if you look at this one, you'll see that there's always a little bit of a longer side to it. Once I get that, I'll turn it again and I'll slice down the sides. You can see I got a little bit of that pit in play, and then I'll cut this one as well. Now inside of here, you can get some mango. You can actually use your paring knife to kind of slit in and remove that. You can use your paring knife to, cut just little slices. You don't really want to waste anything. You can also give this mango to a lucky person that just wants to pop that whole thing into their mouth and enjoy it. But you see what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting the mango kind of away from the pit itself.
Okay.
But inside, it's a pretty big pit. So that we're gonna discard, or I'm gonna actually save it for Spice Girl Kim because she's working for us so hard. She's gonna want this at least to take home to her kiddos. So I'm gonna put that aside. Now we're gonna really get to work on these halves that we've cut. And this is where the paring knife comes in, because a lot of ways you can do it. You could just pare this and then just put it on your cutting board and cut it. But what we're gonna do with the paring knife is just make some little cuts right in it, not going all the way through the skin nor into my hand, may I say. We're then gonna turn it and do the same thing. So I'm getting just little small dices. You can see, if I can hold it tightly.
And we have so many friends and family watching. We're so excited to have you joining us. And if you have any questions, don't forget to ask, and Spice Girl Kim will be your voice.
Once you get that done, you just use your hands and your pressure to put it up. And I'm sure anyone who's been to a buffet at a hotel, you'll see just this exact thing. This is exactly how they do it. Oftentimes, these are able to just be pulled right off with your hands. This is a great thing to get your kiddos to do. Or if you have your paring knife in play, literally just slide the paring knife and voila, you have your beautiful dices of mango. You've not had to peel it, you've not had to do a thing, but just use your little bit of magic, and there you go. So we're gonna do exactly the same thing with this side. Take our cuts one way, we're gonna turn it, take our cuts the other way, again being careful not to cut through, and again, lift it up. I just love that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so fantastic. And then again, with your paring knife, just slide it right underneath and just let those cubes go right into your bowl.
Beautiful.
Now with those extra little small pieces that we have, those you can't quite do this way. So those you'll want to instead just peel them, which peels quite easily, again with our beautiful paring knife. Again, just slip that right off. And then right on your cutting board, just do it almost as if
it smells so good.
the mango.
The
You're
mango.
getting it? There's some positives with being on the Nicole Cam, right?
Oh my goodness.
So then now we're cutting it almost the way we'll be cutting our red pepper, just a little bit. We slice and then we dice.
So Linda wrote and said that she agrees. She always ends up with a mess. But Linda, I'm curious, and if you want to type it in for us, is this, do you think, giving you hope that maybe you can do a mango without it being a mess?
That would be so great. I think some of the mess is getting too ripe of a mango.
Okay.
Because when it's too ripe, it just turns to mush. But you see, this is just really firm, but yet extremely sweet.
Yeah.
And has all of it. We talked about looking for that little bit of stickiness at the end. Also go for a little bit of aroma, kind of like you would try to do a little sniff of pineapple and see if you can get some aroma. Same thing with the mango as well. Just a little sniff. Almost like smelling a peach. If you get some aroma, it says that, yeah, there's some ripeness there, and that works well. But the best thing is just trying to make sure that it's, again, somewhat soft to the touch.
And Linda agreed that with this new technique of cutting, that she feels like she can do it with much less of a mess. And I think that for me, at least, I will confess, I didn't really know how to cut a mango until we started talking about this meal, and I had an expert teach me how to do it, and now I don't feel afraid of mango.
Yes.
Before I really veered away from mango, just like before we did the pineapple
Right.
in the class last year, and how to really cut it without a mess everywhere,
every single time.
I didn't feel as confident.
Okay.
All right, so we're checking our potatoes?
Checking the potatoes. They're really just about there. Again, they're small, so they are doing really well. My husband didn't like I put the lid there, but we're all good to go.
And when you were doing that, you were just seeing if they're fork tender?
Fork tender,
Okay.
yeah, because we're going to be able to use them, obviously, to crash them, but to be able to crash them, we're going to need to be able to have them soft enough to be able to do exactly that. So the recipe calls for 2 mangoes, so since we're trying to stay true to our timing, let's go ahead and get into this one. And I'm kind of playing to see which one I think might be the most tender and what might be the most fragrant. So again, I did a little bit of a smell test.
Before you cut, someone just wrote and said, I love mango, but I do have trouble determining where the pit is. So when you do those first cuts, how do you know where to do the little cut?
So again, you can pretty much determine that if you look at the mango, the pit is going to be right in the middle,
Okay.
but where you're going to get the fleshiest part is on either side. So if you think of this as almost the long side, and that's the tall side right there.
Okay.
You also can kind of see where the heaviness is. The heavier the mango, kind of, or the heavier how it kind of moves, kind of tells you which side. And my bet is that the pit is going to be, because of the way it falls, a little bit more on this side than on this side. But generally, it's always right in the middle. And again, you just let your knife kind of be your guide.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we're going right with it, and sure enough, you see I'm already hitting pit over here. It was falling in that way because that was the heavier side.
And so we're doing 2 mangoes for this chutney.
Right.
All right.
And if you wanted to do something other than mango, if you had some pineapple or peaches, there is so much that this recipe is just absolutely very versatile with. So feel free to make all the adjustments that you choose. And then we're gonna follow exactly the same pattern that we did before. We're just gonna go ahead and take our knife, again, 4-inch paring knife. We're doing our little cuts on either side. Then we're gonna be lifting it up.
Your favorite part?
My favorite part. And off we go. This one is not quite as ripe, I'm gonna tell you. It's the one that we did earlier, so.
And so you prefer it to be a little riper than what you're...
A little riper than this one, but it's gonna work, and it's gonna work just absolutely beautifully.
Great.
So meanwhile, while that's doing its magic, I'm going to check these potatoes one more time.
All right,
because
so
I'm
if
not
you have your
wanting to
potatoes
do-
boiling, now would be a great time to check them. Just get the fork right in there and see if it'll go.
And most of them are done, but some of them are still not. So I'm gonna give them just a few more seconds. And while we're doing that, I'll go ahead and finish this.
And it looks like a women's group that I am in that's run by an amazing woman out in California. Their whole group is watching us.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
Hello to the women's
Hello
group.
to the women's group. Watching, cooking, all of the above?
I don't know. We'll have to see after if they post some pictures of their meal.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll let that be our mango for right now, and then we're gonna move on because my potatoes are crying for us to start to look at them. Again, under normal situations, I would just drain these out of the water. But in this case, because we're live on TV or Facebook, what I'm going to do instead is just use a slotted spoon and just put them right into a colander and let them drain. We want them to dry out somewhat because as they dry, they're going to be even more perfect to get into roasting. When you're roasting something, you really don't want to have a lot of moisture in it because the moisture tends to cause it to steam. And we've already steamed these potatoes. What we're looking to do is instead get this beautiful crispy caramelization.
Fantastic.
So
And that was just one bag of potatoes, right?
One small bag of potatoes, and just beautiful. I'm gonna let them just take a moment to be able to do their thing
let
because they're
them
gonna
be.
be a little hot. And while they're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and do our pepper. Now again, if you've not done a pepper before with us, or maybe you already have yours done, actually I'm gonna use our paring knife for this too. I always take that bottom half, that little slice rather, off the bottom so that I have a nice firm base for this. And then with the paring knife, literally just cut right around it. You don't need to try to core it and take the seeds out. Let your knife do that for you. All you're doing is just cutting that away, and voila, you've got all of your seeds. They're done, ready to go.
Talk about not having a mess.
Not having a mess. And now you've got the ability to really do some nice slices. And again, that's exactly what we're gonna do, just like we did with the mango. We're gonna first cut them into some slices. Once you've sliced, then you can dice. You can see this paring knife is like, I mean, it cuts it like butter.
Wow.
But we're always looking to get a nice firm kind of a placement on the cutting board. Same thing over here.
Beautiful.
Nice little slices. Slices that will then quickly turn into some dices. And this was not the largest pepper I've ever seen. Not a concern at all, because it's plenty, because we're using all of it. And just let your knife go right through. Either the paring knife, you could use a larger one, whichever you're doing. I just love this 4-inch paring knife, which actually, why don't we seize the moment? Maybe this is the time.
Is this the moment?
Might be.
All right, when she says it's the moment, I think what she's meaning is it's the moment for a contest. So, if you are ready, we are gonna ask a question, and we need you to answer the question to the best you can. The person who answers the question correctly first will win this, not this exact one that Pam's using,
this particular one,
but
yes.
this exact one in a pearl, the 4-inch Cutco paring knife. So the question, without further ado, is...
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. How many different types of paring knives does Cutco Cutlery offer? One answer per person, please.
Are people Googling at this very moment?
Well, they can do whatever they want. The first person to answer correctly will win.
How many paring knives
How
does
many
Cutco
types
offer?
of paring knives does Cutco Cutlery offer?
Nice.
All right, we'll keep cooking and we'll let you know when someone wins.
Okay, so meanwhile, we've got our peppers cut and enough that we can kind of finish that. The beautiful thing about this is that it goes in lots of different stages. So while, I'm waiting for the potatoes to cool, I can take that moment and go ahead and cut the red peppers. While I'm then letting that happen, I can then smash the potatoes and then come back. Who won?
We have a winner.
Oh.
I know, and everybody's wondering, is it me? Is it me? Well, the winner is Miss Mary Beth Johnson.
Well, how about
with
that?
6 different types of paring knives. And in our
Is
time,
it 6?
It's 6. In our time at Cutco, which has just been some of the most wonderful times, they have shown us each different paring knife and what it does. And everyone has its own purpose. But this 4-inch, it was the first of the paring knives, and it's really just one of those go-to kitchen essentials. So, Johnson family, you will be getting your 4-inch paring knife with a pearl handle coming very soon.
That's
Congratulations.
Really awesome. Congratulations indeed. So I, out of sheer habit, put the pan into the oven. And what's interesting about this is that every time I roast anything, potatoes, tomatoes, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, asparagus, I always have one tip, and that is get your pan in the oven as we have, and go ahead and heat your pan with the oven heating. So it was just a natural for me to do that, even though Nicole questioned me about it with the recipe of did we want to do that.
It's the first time I've ever seen a recipe that she's doing that she didn't say to preheat the pan with the oven, and I had to write her and say, was this a mistake?
No.
Are you sure you didn't want to do that?
Well, the reason I don't is because I'm having to handle a pretty hot pan here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be doing a lot on it. I'm doing just a little bit of a brush of olive oil on the pan. This is a 400-degree pan. Children, do not do this at home. I mean, this is not anything that normally I would want you to do, so it's by design that I say don't start it that hot. So gonna need to be a little careful here, folks. So all that we're doing is literally just spreading these now drained and cooked potatoes right onto this pan.
And usually we love the sizzle, but
Usually we do, and I love it here. I mean, it does something, right, when you hear that sizzle. But we're gonna spread them out because I want them to have lots of room to caramelize. I'm again not looking for them to steam. They're already pretty nice and hot. So no need to try to get that kind of steam going. I'm actually gonna even use a paper towel because they're so hot that when I break into them, not wanting to hurt myself, but with a fork, literally just smashing the potatoes. Crash, smash, and it's with a method because by exposing that beautiful creamy interior, we're gonna be able to then brush it with some olive oil. We're gonna be sprinkling it then with porcini pepper. Our oven doesn't like it when you put things on it, have you noticed?
It does not like that at all. Let me move.
It's
all
the pan.
that's touching.
It's all that it's touching, anything that's metal.
All
Sometimes you go ahead and break through like I just did there with a little too much pressure, and no worries at all. There's nothing perfect about these. You don't need to make them perfect because they're just so delicious. They really don't need to be.
And this is where it's really a difference between smashed and crashed. I had
Right.
somebody say to me just today, they're like, oh yeah, I've done smashed potatoes before, but most people when they say smashed potatoes, they really mean a mashed potato that isn't all the way mashed. Maybe
Exactly.
it has the skin,
Right.
it has some texture to it, but these are almost becoming potato patties.
They really
They're, you're just using your fork to flatten it, and it's not, like Pam said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be pretty. It
You can
even
roll it
jump
right
onto the
around.
plate.
I know.
But it's really just exposing that middle so that you can season it. So that's
Right.
what she's doing right now. Some have said, should we use a potato masher to do it? I have tried it in my kitchen. I actually don't think it works as well as a fork.
Well, I think it depends on the size potato.
Okay.
So these are not large potatoes by any means. So with that, you definitely, a potato masher would probably just, more than crash them, it would really smash them. But with that little fork, you can do a little more. And those that were a little bit more difficult to do were those that probably didn't, cook quite as well as others. Notice these are not perfect potatoes. They came from a field.
Right.
And so they're not all the same size. They're, again, kind of baby heirloom potatoes. So they're not meant to be perfection by any means. All I'm doing is taking just a little bit of olive oil. If you have a spritzer, you could actually spritz them. That works out beautifully too. Literally just touching them with a little bit of oil, and then the magic starts to happen, because then on top of that, I'm going to be sprinkling them with the porcini pepper. And the porcini pepper will give it just that incredible flavor.
So you like to, I noticed this when you're cooking, you like to pour it in your hands so you really have control of what you're doing versus sprinkling it for the porcini pepper.
I do, because I really notice I go high with the spices, because I can really sprinkle it and get just a lot more control. The same thing happens when I'm trying to salt something, season something. Again, this is not a rub, this is a sprinkle. And with that, you really want to get a good coverage, but you want to be able to do it in a way that you've got some control to it. Whereas sometimes shaking it, you get a little bit more coming out. Can you get those aromas?
It's unbelievable. The porcini and the porcini pepper is just intoxicating.
It really is. So, so great. Again, smoked paprika. There's a little lemon in here. It's really...
I love the minced onion that's in it. I think that the texture of it, it does a lot for me, especially when I'm putting it on a beef, but even using it on these potatoes, I think that the texture is a really nice mixture.
So you see it. I mean, nothing beautiful, not needing it to be beautiful,
No.
right? What we're needing it to be is delicious. We'll take care of the beauty when we actually get it onto the plate. So 400-degree oven, again, that was what you have it set at. You slip it right back into the oven, and the oven's gonna do its magic.
And the stove is going to keep yelling at us.
Apparently. Okay, so we've got that in play. What we want to do is finish our mango chutney. And yeah, I'm going to put this right back here.
Yeah, and I'm going to hand this to you.
Perfect.
And we have our new friend Kay on with us, and we're so excited that she's cooking with us. She said that that last tip was so helpful.
Which one?
Kay, which one? Was it about how to sprinkle on the spices? Let us know what was the most helpful to you.
Probably that, right? Because
I'm
it's so
thinking
different
so.
than the norm. So we're going to let those go probably around 10 minutes, which is going to put us kind of, we're ticking the time clock, right? Because we're trying to do this in about 60, but no problem because these pork chops are going to cook so quickly and we're almost at the end of our mango chutney. So we're really in really good place.
Yep, the sprinkle high.
The sprinkle high has
That's
happened.
great.
Okay, that's what she was hoping for.
Yes.
These are shallots. I did go ahead and take the liberty to peel them. Shallots are just a little, it's a little milder onion. I mean, it's oftentimes called a cross between an onion and garlic, but you know, I don't get that. They're just so flavorful. They're much smaller than an onion and really delicious. If you don't have shallots, feel free to use either a sweet onion or use a red onion. Works out just as well. You cut these the same way, and actually since we're featuring our paring knife, I'm going to use that. You cut these just like you would a regular onion, even though they're a little larger. I just go through and cut them really along the fiber lines of the shallot. You can it's almost like God has just put the perfect little lines in play so that you're getting just that. And then with your knife, literally go through, slide your knife through, and you've got this perfect dice. They are so easy to be able to dice, as is dicing an onion. Notice I'm always kind of holding my fingers away from it somewhat so that you're getting the best of the cut. This, believe it or not, was a shallot, but didn't have the same color that the purple one did, but I decided to go ahead and throw it into the mix.
Well, like the potatoes.
Yes.
Everyone has its own
own
look,
little
its
personality,
own size.
right? So I'm gonna take that.
And so we're doing, is it 4 shallots?
We're doing 2 shallots.
Two
That was a
shallots.
large
you would
one. I
cut them
cut
in
it in
half.
half.
Okay, great.
Exactly. So we can use that. And all that we're looking to do is just get that added to this mix as well. You can certainly do as small of a dice as you want, as large of a dice as you would want. And we've got the mango, we've got the red pepper. So now we need to start adding some flavor. And even though these fruits have their own flavor, we're gonna add some by using citrus. We're gonna use lime and we're gonna use orange. And then, P.S. don't forget the flavor, we're gonna be adding both adobo and chili lime. Little hack, if you've been in any of our cooking classes before, I always microwave limes, lemons, even oranges, if I'm gonna use them in a recipe like this for just 30 seconds in the microwave, right? Because it literally releases the juice. It starts to burst open the cells and gives you just this incredible thing. Why does it not like us? I do not know.
No, tonight it just wants to be part of the class.
I think it does.
And
I think it
while
does.
we're figuring out what's beeping at us, we want to say a welcome to our friend and chef, Linda Lou Hamill.
Oh.
So happy to have you joining us tonight.
Absolutely. I'm using our citrus squeezer, and literally because I had microwaved them, look at the way the juice just pours out of this. It's really incredible. And citrus squeezers like this are fantastic. There's lots of little tips you can use. You can use a fork to squeeze. You can certainly use your hands, but just does the work really nicely for you. But popping them in the microwave for just that 30 seconds really does make a huge difference. If I was squeezing them with my hands, quite honestly, I would cut them in half lengthwise. You get a little more of a squeeze, but in this case, because I'm using the citrus squeezer, it fits in so nicely if you cut them right down the middle in a halfways. So 2 limes and 1 orange.
Wow, that is so much juice. So you really don't measure the juice out. You just know that if you're doing 2 limes and you've microwaved it to get the most juices from it, that's going to be enough.
Yeah, and it's 2 limes is going to give you about a half a cup.
Okay.
You usually get a 1/4 cup of lime juice from a lime. So you're going to get about a half a cup. An orange gives you a lot of juice. And depending on how much in season it is, it's a little too large to put into that citrus squeezer, although the way that I do it, if I'm going to, is I cut the orange into a 1/4. So it fits quite nicely in.
Oh, great.
And then I use the squeezer.
Oh, and
to
you've
do
even
exactly
microwaved the orange, is that right?
I even microwave the orange,
Okay.
exactly. So you can do exactly the same thing, just getting it fit in a little bit. And it just keeps you not having to use quite as much elbow grease. Other than that, just cut them into quarters, and you can see they squeeze just so easily. The quartering lengthwise really does help to release a little bit more of the juice. And in we go.
Voila, beautiful.
Beautiful indeed.
I just love the color of this chutney too, with the mango and the red peppers, and even what the onion does.
Beautiful,
Just beautiful.
right? So the only thing that's really left to do, you can, I call for a little honey, but you may not need it. It's all about the sweetness of the mango, and there's a little bit of turbinado sugar that's in the chili lime. So we're going to use about 2 teaspoons of this, and yes, I should have a teaspoon measure here. I do not. My hand is kind of exactly a teaspoon, so I've been cooking a really long time, so I tend to do that, but you really should use a measure. It's the right thing to do. And then we're going to use about 1.5 teaspoons of adobo. And as I said, adobo is like medicine in a jar. It's loaded with turmeric and black pepper and just beautiful, beautiful flavors.
Also, I think that we should start calling teaspoons just Pam's hand.
Pam's hand. That would be very nice indeed.
Oh, wow. That is just beautiful. Melissa Hamill says that she can smell it from her desk.
She can smell it from her desk. That's right, because she's on Pacific time, right?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So we're going to mix that together. The only thing that we still have to add is potentially a little bit of honey. In the perfect world, I would let this marinade together in the refrigerator or even room temp for about an hour. It gives time for those flavors to marinate. In the recipe, I say you could add just a little hit of coconut rum. That's certainly what we did at Bahama Breeze back in the day. But again, it's just one more thing that you can do to add your own personal flavor. Tasting spoons, absolutely key whenever you are cooking, because who knows if the mango had the flavor we were wanting to. So again, you always want to know that because we're cooking with produce and it's nature, it's not always the same. It's not stamped out in a factory. So good. I am going to add just a little touch of honey though, because I think it could use not only the little bit of sweetness, but can also use the little bit of kind of sauciness that honey can bring into the mix.
And would that be especially if it's maybe not quite as ripe as you would want, so it doesn't have the liquid with it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the citrus is going to give it a good blending, but just that little bit of touch, and that's completely based on flavor and what's going. And the only thing yet to add is some fresh herbs. Now you could do just a little bit of a chop of these herbs, but again, if you've watched any of our Cooking Live sessions here, you know that we're quite in love with Cutco Super Shears, and we're gonna do just a little bit of a snip of these. So literally, rather than chopping and doing all that goes with that, just a little bit of cut. I like the larger leaf in this. I'm not looking for a really tiny, tiny mince. I'm just looking to get that whole leaf look of the cilantro, and it just gives so much flavor. If you're not a cilantro fan and think it tastes a little like soap, I'm not sure what dirty soap tastes like, but we always hear that. Fine to use a parsley instead, but I particularly love the way that the cilantro works in this. So there we have, we've got our beautiful mango chutney all set. Mango salsa, again, as I said, this could be peach, this could be any number of things. I've made this with berries. It's just really quite delicious. And now we're ready to go. But what we need to do first is take a little look at what's happening with our potatoes. Nicole, Cam might want to get in there, and you can see they're just getting all crispy, and that steam that's lifting up is saying that it's starting to really do its caramelization. Keeping the oven on, keeping the potatoes in, because we're exactly at the time now that we need to start working with our pork chops.
All right.
And the pork chops are going to be done with also the chili lime. And we really wanted to choose this in a special way because the chili lime is one of our rubs, and with that, we always feel like it's instructional to come to know really how to use these, because generally, you know, we think about seasoning something and we think about seasoning it with just a little sprinkle. But again, this is a rub, it's not a spice blend. So with that, we're wanting to almost cover the fullness of the pork chop. So back to not a teaspoon, Pam's hand. We're gonna use about 2 tablespoons here and literally just sprinkle it. Again, going high, same thing. The equivalent of about 1 tablespoon on one side of the chops.
Okay, so that would be a good way to measure that, is to measure out a tablespoon and try to get it to go across, but really covering the chops. So if you need to add a little bit more to cover it, the goal is to have a light rub all across where you almost don't even see any flesh.
Right, exactly. I've started my pan heating. I added just a little bit of olive oil to the pan, and while that's starting to cook, I'm gonna put that in the side that I just seasoned, season side down.
Okay, so we got our pan very, very hot, smoking hot, if you will.
Hot,
and then you put
hot.
a little bit of olive oil, and now we're putting seasoned side down so that they really sear.
So that they sear and they caramelize that right into them. Then while in the pan, I go ahead and season the other side. You could do that in the pan or in the plate, but what I find is when you turn them over, you tend to leave a lot of the rub in the plate. This way you're getting that searing. I'm always looking for time savings, and it just gives you a little extra way to be able to do it.
Is anybody else always looking for time savings? It seems like there's never quite enough time. So,
but you see, I'm literally wanting to cover every bit of the flesh, right? We're letting that, while I'm doing this, cook on that side. It's going to begin its little searing action. The pan, again, smoking hot. We're then going to get these into the oven. The oven's on 400. It's going to cook very, very quickly because of that. And right at the same time, we're finishing up those potatoes. So in that little bit of time, look at what's happened.
oh my gosh.
Absolute beauty, right? In the pan.
Now, I found this chili lime, because it does have that carbonate sugar in it, that sometimes it gets that almost blackened, and it just tastes better.
It's amazing. Yeah.
There's no going wrong with
No,
it. So
it's
if yours,
just absolutely perfect.
if yours got a little bit blacker, let's say more like the ones closer to the camera than further, they're still perfect. There's
Well,
nothing
actually,
wrong.
that's actually what you're looking for.
Great.
It scares people, but it's exactly what you're looking for. And so then we're done. We just put that little bit, we let them cook on the stove for just about an hour. A minute.
Not an hour.
Not
That
an
might
hour,
be too
an
black.
hour on my head. And so then I'm going to slip them right into the oven and let them finish cooking.
Right.
I'm going to let them go to about 150. I have a trusty thermometer, and we're going to be checking those in just a little bit. They're so thin that they're going to cook really, really, really quickly,
Now,
about the same time.
If someone just has 2 racks in their oven, I know we all just saw 3, but if they have 2, is it important when you're cooking this meal to do the pork above the potatoes? Does it matter where you put the pork?
You know, it really doesn't, but because you're going to get the most heat right there at the top, and because they had already, they're thin, and because they had already sauteed a bit on top of the stove, I know that little hit in the oven, they're going to cook in 4 minutes.
Great.
This is like fast food. It almost doesn't do better than that. So I'm going to let them do their thing, and then we're going to move over, clean up our workstation just a little bit. How are we doing, Spice Girl Kim?
Things are great here.
Good. Any questions?
Well, we have a question about the cilantro.
Yeah.
What's the best way to store cilantro? How to keep it, make it last longer?
Well, you see that I have cilantro in a glass jar, and it's really one of the tips for doing fresh herbs is rather than trying to just put them in the refrigerator, which oftentimes doesn't have quite the humidity that you need to keep them alive. Treat fresh herbs like fresh flowers. So what do you do when you get home from the store with fresh flowers? You snip off the ends with your trusty little shears and get them immediately into water. So in this case, I'm using them tonight, but once we're done with this, you want to take a Ziploc bag and just loosely put it on top of the herbs and put them into the refrigerator.
In the glass jar?
In the glass jar with water. But what happens is that little Ziploc bag over them makes almost like a humidity tent. And it just keeps the herbs fresh. You can keep them in there for up to a week without any problems at all. You can also kind of do the same thing if you don't have that much room in your refrigerator by taking a paper towel, dampening it just a bit, wrapping them tightly in the paper towel, and then putting them in a Ziploc bag. The same thing, that moisture of the paper towel will hold that in. The reason they die so quickly in the refrigerator is they just don't do well with that lower humidity that's in place. So if you kind of make your own little humidity tent, it works out a little bit better.
Awesome.
So great question.
Great hack.
Okay, so we're going to be plating this, and we're going to, I love this meal. It's just absolutely fantastic, and I think we're pretty much ready to do exactly that. Those pork chops have been in just long enough that the temperature should tell me what I'm looking for it to say. And let's check that just to make sure. Don't they look amazing?
Incredible.
Nicole Cam. If you all don't have a little digital temperature thermometer, it's so key to being able to know exactly what you're doing. So funny, mine has somehow gotten onto Celsius, so we're going to be so good.
While you're finding your Fahrenheit,
Yes.
I will say we do offer the citrus squeezer, a zester, and the thermometer on our website at just at our prices, at restaurant prices. When we got it wholesale, we just offer it at the wholesale price because we want you to be able to cook with these gadgets, and no need to pay the upcharge if you want to grab them while you're getting some spices. That's at psflavor.com.
So they were done. Perfect.
They're perfect.
They are perfect. They'll continue to carry over cooking. They're very thin, so they'll cook. They'll continue to cook a little bit while I'm bringing them out. But like any meat, you want to give it a chance to rest a bit and let the juices go back into the center. We all know that with turkey, when we all of a sudden get a turkey out of the oven, we cut it and all the juices run all over the cutting board. You always want that little moment to be able to let it rest.
How did you know the potatoes were ready?
Really by sight. You can see that they're getting a little crispy right on top. The spices have kind of gone from that drier state to one that they're instead kind of integrated into the whole. And we're just gonna literally put these potatoes right onto our plate. I'm so excited about this meal.
I know, I love these potatoes. Like Pam said, when she and my sister first made them years and years ago, we all just fell in love because they're just the perfect texture, and then adding the spices to it makes them the perfect flavor. It's been a fun addition for us for potatoes. Because you're always trying to come up with a creative way to do potatoes, you know?
Well, yeah, and I mentioned at the earlier set that I use the kind of tricolor potatoes. One of the reasons is I love what it does on the plate. It's just so unusual. You see those purple potatoes and really, really beautiful. Again, we've let those just have a little bit of a chance to rest. And now we're gonna set a pork chop just right on top of these potatoes.
Beautiful.
And take a little bit of our mango salsa and literally just
Oh my gosh.
top it.
I don't think it could be more vibrant.
I know, it's such a beautiful, beautiful way, and just the colors, the flavors, certainly can put just a little bit of a swoosh of it on the plate if you wanted to, you know, give just a little bit of color differential.
Nice.
Which is just really beautiful. And then maybe just a little piece of that fresh cilantro just laying right on top of it, because why not,
Just
right?
very rustic, doesn't have to
delicious,
be perfect.
yeah.
Oh, I love the look of this and those bright mangoes.
So we did have some people who made this in advance, made it last night, just
Yes.
using the recipe, and had asked, could they add anything? Could you add a green vegetable to it? And the answer is, of course you can. If you wanted to add broccoli or broccolini or some green beans or asparagus, anything, we felt that it was just kind of an overall perfection meal. Maybe you have a salad to start it with, but whichever you're doing, it's really just delicious, and we can't wait to have it, and can't wait for you to enjoy it as well.
Oh, I know. Amazing job.
Thank you.
I can't wait to eat this meal. It's one of our staples, because when we started making the rubs, making them, it's just so easy. Like you said, fast food. Within 10 minutes, you have 4 pork chops done.
Right.
You didn't have to marinate, didn't really have to do anything. You did trim the fat off.
Yes.
And then got the pot or the pan hot, and there we go.
And quite honestly, if I was doing this for a crowd or for our family, I would have made that mango chutney either that morning, that afternoon, an hour before. That would have already been in the fridge.
Right.
I would have already have had the potatoes cooked. So all that I needed to do, and could even go ahead and smash them.
Yeah.
And get them all ready to go with that little bit of olive oil, the porcini pepper. So all you're doing when you get ready to actually cook the meal is just slip those in the oven together with the pork chops.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
If, I don't know how this could happen, but if someone has extra potatoes after they've plated, maybe they're only plating for 2, so there's some leftover, how do you keep these potatoes and have them again? What's the best way?
You can't go wrong with these potatoes. They're just so good. I will tell you that I use them for leftovers. I mean, you can heat them in the microwave, but my favorite way to reheat them, if you already have them in the fridge, is just in a saute pan, just like we did. A little bit of olive oil, and just put them right back in. That sizzle power just kind of brings them back to life, and
So
does
a little sizzle.
little sizzle power, and it does it every time.
Okay.
So, and they're awesome for breakfast the next day. These potatoes topped with a little black beans and maybe an egg on top.
Wow.
We got it.
And then the salsa, this can stay in the refrigerator for how?
5 days, I
Wow.
mean, easily. I mean,
Okay.
there's nothing that's going to go bad with it, but because you have the herbs, you're gonna lose a little bit of the brightness. So if you were gonna make it today to serve tomorrow, I would wait and add the cilantro tomorrow.
That's a great
So
tip.
wait to add on that because it just kind of takes that brightness away.
Okay, so hold on the herbs,
Mhm.
add that, but go ahead and add the spices, add your juices, add everything, just hold the herbs.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then pork will be eaten. I have a
It will
sneaking
be.
suspicion.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, if you're not a pork fan and you're watching this, you haven't made it yet, we also love this meal with salmon.
Oh, we do.
There's something about chili lime and salmon. I call it Disney magic. It's just, there's something that happens when those two come together. But do the same thing. You've really got to rub your protein. So if it's salmon, pork, chicken, whatever it is, rub it, get that pan extra hot and sear it.
As we know, when we're cooking for a crowd, we do this exact thing, but with a pork tenderloin.
Right.
So we rub the whole pork tenderloin with the chili lime, sear it in the pan the same way, put it in the oven, but then you can slice it. It's great for a crowd.
Yeah.
We've done 10 and 12 pork tenderloins at one time because we have a big family.
We
so.
do, a great
And
big
we love
family.
our family. So.
We have loved you being with us. We will be back in June with a summer gazpacho with a black bean and corn salsa. You can add an adobo shrimp if you want, but we are so excited about this next meal. We can't wait for you to sit down. I can't believe we've prepped, cooked, done a contest all in exactly 1 hour. So,
And sip wine.
and sip some
Yes.
wine. So thank you for being with us. If you have any questions, ask us after. If you need some spices, go to psflavorclub.com. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Send us pictures of your meal.
Yes.
And congratulations, Mary Beth.
Yes. And bon appetit.